I didn't realize that was
Okay.
this deep in here, but I guess it is.
Oh.
My wife's still working.
Should I start singing? If I start singing, you all leave. You don't want me to start singing.
Oh, you're gonna say?
No, because then you would all leave. Thank you all for coming out. This is really a great turnout. So every month we do something on the Wright family. That's it. So we're going to do it. For the next 15 months, it's going to be all about the Wright.
Hey, you promised us Christmas, Mitch.
That's right. I'm Joyce Held from the Pownal Historical Society, and we're so glad that we had such a great turnout. Leona Ward is going to be doing a presentation on the Wright family of Pownal, their lives, their homes, their mills. Oh my. So go for it, Leona.
So I thought it'd be pretty cool to learn how the Solomon Wright Library came to be. And the marker is in the Oak Hill Cemetery. It has all the family lineage on it. And I live across the street from the cemetery.
Leona, where's the cemetery located?
On Burrington Road, across from my house.
Well, I don't know where to get it.
It's on Burrington Road.
Okay.
So it begins in Northampton with Samuel and Jemina King Wright. Their firstborn was Charles Wright, and he married Ruth Boltwood. And between 1755 and 1759, Charles served His Majesty's forces under different commands. And then he opened licensed tavern keeper at Fort Massachusetts. And there are the photos of the tavern in Fort Massachusetts. And then in Samuel, Charles' brother, was born 1745 and married Sarah Freelove, and they had 5 children. And Samuel died and was buried in the Wright Farm Cemetery in St. Lawrence, New York. Charles and Samuel and family, Charles and his family, along with his brother Samuel, came to Pownal, and each received 180 acres. Then Charles opened a tavern and inn. It was the beginning of Pownal Village and Main Street. The tavern is part of the Moore Wright House, just across the street. Charles' son, Josiah, after Charles died, Josiah inherited the tavern. Josiah fathered 9 children, and he fought at the Battle of Bennington. After which he served as judge of probate and other offices in the judicial system. He eventually sold the tavern to his brother Solomon. Josiah opened the first post office of Pownal in a small room on the east side of the tavern. He died in January from injuries of a carriage accident on his way to the court. Solomon also became a judge. He lived across the street from the tavern in a home he built named Wright Home. Solomon and his wife Eunice Jewett had 11 children. He was Bennington County Judge in 1789, Chief Judge 1814. He was a member of legislature for many years. Judge Wright did not have an early education. However, he learned he had acquired extensive knowledge by reading and observation. Became quite familiar and was often called upon to counsel in law matters. one of Solomon's children, Pliny, was born in Pownal. He married Vinette Wadsworth, and they had 8 children. Pliny was a father and a large landowner. He served with Vermont legislature in 1856 and became the first board of Oak Grove Seminary, built by Prager Pownal Literary Association. This was at first a private academy and employed Williams College students as some of its first teachers. He was listed in the 1880 Bennington Directory as postmaster, selectman, dealer in general merchandise, and owning a farm with woodland in New York, Williamstown, Stanford, and North Adams. Wright Sr. Pliny and Vinette's son Solomon was born in 1837. He graduated from Williams College and is listed as one of the early teachers of the Oak Grove Seminary. He returned to Pownal after college and married Angeline Werner. During the Civil War, Solomon built his mill. It was a 4-set mill. And by meaning 4-set, it had different cards that would refine the wool to make
Where would that bridge have been?
Pardon?
Where would that bridge have been?
under
Right here.
Right here?
things for the military, yes. That could then be spun into yarn in large quantities, meeting the high demand for woven fabrics for both civilian and military use. Wilkinson DeForest Wright. Solomon Sr.'s sons were associated with the Wright business. Wilkinson DeForest was secretary, and Solomon Jr. was first a salesman then treasurer of the underwear company. Solomon and Wilkinson also operated a commission house in New York for their fathers. I've jumped ahead, I apologize.
You don't have that one?
I don't think so.
That's the one about the,
80.
To, gosh, I'm now lost.
okay. That's okay. This is the one of the, I think it talks about where Solomon, he had built the Wright home, and then later on, in 1867, he built a larger home for his family on a large lot on Orchard Street, which is over here. I think it's probably the house that, if anybody remembers the Tollies that own the sawmill, it's the house that Tollies own. And then he moved to Troy, New York, where he organized. You don't have that on there? No, okay. That must have fallen off or something. And then he moved to Troy, New York, where he organized and was president of a corporation. And he incorporated several mills. Remember, the mills were in Troy, Cohoes, and of course he had the Pownal, Hoosick Valley mills. And he organized this for American and China trade, so we were trading with China even back then. And then this is the little blurb about the Pownal mill burned down in 1905 and was not rebuilt. And then this says that he died on April 2nd. Actually, I think it was like 22nd, I don't know what the first number is, in 1912. Mr. Wright died in Troy, New York, and I think this is quite interesting. His wife Mary had died in Luxor, Egypt in 1895 on a trip up the Nile.
That's very cool.
And I said to Leona, I said, just think about that. I guess if I had a choice, I think maybe that wouldn't be bad.
It was a
Rather
great
than, you know, yeah, just going up, yeah, up the Nile, and you know, I'll probably slip and hit my head and die in the bathroom, you know. But I thought that was kind of neat. I'm sure Mary. But anyway, so all right. So then the next one. Leona, the next one is the one that you got about the two brothers. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so
Sorry about that. I must have mixed
that's
this up.
okay. So both sons were associated with the Wright business. Wilkinson was secretary, and Solomon Jr. was first salesman and treasurer of the Wright Underwear Company. Solomon and Wilkinson also operated a mission house in New York for their fathers and other companies. After the turn of the century, Solomon Jr. organized his own company and remained president until 1945 when he sold the business. He was the father of 8 children.
At least they had big families.
And here we have and I call them union suits because that's what they were in the army or military.
Extra rows.
Yes.
Well, you can wear, wash, and will not shrink.
Wool that doesn't shrink.
So do we know, did they have a sheep farm, or they got the wool from somewhere else?
They got stuff with it. I mean, you know, Pownal is full of sheep.
I know.
Yeah, but I never saw where they owned sheep.
Ah,
But Pownal was full of sheep. We had a lot of sheep, so I'm sure that was up on the mountain there. They had the
keep everybody
Yeah,
in business.
yeah.
Solomon Jr. died in December in Glen Ridge, New Jersey. Following his father's footsteps of remembering his earlier home, his will awarded monies to the Pownal Baptist Church and the library then housed in the basement of the Baptist Church. This gift from Solomon Jr. would be added to funds raised by library supporters in Pownal. This enabled them, with no tax dollars, to match the government library construction act funds to build the Solomon Wright Public Library. The library collection, which had been housed in the Baptist Church, then the Wright home, and back to the Baptist Church again, was finally moved across the street to the new shelves in 1966, thanks to the Boy Scouts and their wagons.
What's that chair you're sitting in? It happens.
And to this day, the descendants of Pownal Solomon Wright families have generously continued to support the library in its efforts over the years to serve all the residents of Pownal, young and old. The Lucy Wright Case Reading Room is a beautiful reminder of our love for Pownal.
Bring a check, Doug?
Yeah.
Great.
So who was Lucy married to?
Lucy, then we got.
You want to tell
Well,
me
she
who
come
Lucy
into
was?
it.
You want me to tell me who Lucy was? Who was Lucy? Lucy was Solomon Wright's daughter. She was Lucy Wright, and she married Mr. Case, so she was Lucy Wright Case. Solomon Wright Jr.
Junior, yeah.
Mhm. She was born in the 1930s, and it really is fantastic that the Wright family had a place in their heart for Pownal, and especially the library. And so she was still alive when they came. Well, obviously, when they came many times, but after she passed, her husband had this addition put on. I hope that this addition.
and the family still are somewhat active, right? They help us-
Yeah, on the board.
Yeah, on the board and very active, so, so we're very, very fortunate that we had that Charles and Samuel came for a little ride over the border and wound up here. There's so many different interesting things about the Wright family that Leona and I came across when we were doing the research. The fact that Charles, for instance, Ken and I, all the years we did research, we would come up with this Charles Wright, and we knew the Library was Solomon Wright, and we just never took the time to find out how they were connected. And then the more and more we learned, we realized, that Charles was a tavern keeper, and it says license, which it was something to be had, and he was at Fort Massachusetts, and I think his son was the first born at the fort, so that was a little claim to fame. But Charles had other taverns. Charles had. Does anybody know or familiar with the house when you go into Williamstown from Pownal? You go just over the state line, and there's a white house on the left. Part of that house is in Williamstown, and part of that house is in Pownal. And Charles Wright had a tavern in there on the Pownal side because you couldn't have it on the Massachusetts side. So,
Same house?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. People would get married there. And the bride would stand over here, and the groom would stand over here, and they would kiss from the two different states. So it was kind of neat, yeah. So that house has a lot of history. And then of course, when Charles and Samuel came to Pownal, remember back then the proprietors were giving out 180 acres. I wish they'd do it again for anybody who would come and start his homestead, Yeah. So they thought it was a great opportunity, which it was. And they came up from Fort Massachusetts and came into what is known as Pownal now. It was Pownal then. It just 1760 it was chartered, so they came in like 1762. But the English had come and they had offered this. So that's how they got the 180 acres, and it said east of the Hoosick River. So this is from behind us. Think about 180 acres. Wow. So I was just reading about the gum store, and I don't know if anybody remembers hearing about the gum store. The gum store was a Revolutionary War barn that was up on 346, right by. I'm going back now. What was this? Seneco? What was his name? The barber. Was it Seneco?
That was right.
Senecal. Mr. Senecal had a barber shop up there.
Oh, yeah.
Well, there was this old Revolutionary War barn, and the Wrights owned it. And I thought, why would the Wrights own it? Well, let's visualize this 180 acres. That was a barn on their property. We tend to think of this little
lot of land.
our little quarter-acre, a half-acre, whatever it may be. We don't think of people owning 180 acres.
Then the Baptist church is the one across the street.
Right across the street.
That
That's
they
right.
mentioned. Yeah.
That's right. The original church burnt down, and then the church that's there now,
Right.
Yeah, they're rebuilt. Yeah, and the Cub Scouts came and helped bring the.
I was hoping before you shut it off, you go back to like the second slide, but that's okay. I was interested in the relative who served apparently in the French and Indian War.
Who did?
What unit he was with?
No, you talking about Charles? You talking about Charles?
And it was like on the second slide or something, said he
second-
served with the British war, but
Charles, yes, that was Charles. He served multiple units with multiple units. But I don't think it'd be the French and Indian Wars.
well, it was 1770, 1775.
Would be Revolutionary
It was
War.
the French and Indian War,
Would
right?
it be the Revolutionary War?
Then it might be the end of the French and Indian War.
Okay, well, it could be, I don't know, I didn't really, he was serving for His Majesty there, he was going with the English, yeah, maybe, I don't know.